It's Friday the 13th, so if you want to stay safe, avoid the sequels. You're watching What's Trending, I'm Shira Lazar. Be sure to like this video and subscribe for more social media news daily. Or else. Nobody really knows for sure why Friday the 13th is considered an unlucky day. Some people think it's in reference to the Last Supper, which had 13 attendees right before Jesus was crucified on Good Friday. On a Friday, really? What a bummer day to be crucified. Before the weekend and everything, damn. Other people think it goes back to Friday, October 13th, 1307, when King Philip IV of France ordered the arrest of hundreds of members of the Catholic order known as the Knights Templar. However it got its start, Friday the 13th still gives us all chills. And even though statistically, bad luck is no more likely to find you on Friday the 13th, oh my god, it must be Friday the 13th, I can't speak! And even though statistically, misfortune is no more likely to find you on Friday the 13th than any other day, enough creepy and unlucky things have happened on that day to freak us the f out. So here are the creepiest things ever to happen on Friday the 13th. The final jump of Sam Patch. Sam Patch became a nationally recognized daredevil in 1829 when on October 17th, he successfully survived jumping off a cliff near Niagara Falls to the delight of spectators. He tried the same stunt again only 3 weeks later from Genesee Falls on Friday, November 6th, and it was also a success. That jump, however, raised less money than he anticipated, so Patch decided to do it again from a higher platform. That attempt came on Friday the 13th of November 1829, and it didn't go so well. Patch apparently showed up half drunk and was unable to keep his typical feet-first form. He hit the water with a thud, and his frozen body was discovered in the thawing ice the following spring. The unluckiest part of Patch's story, though, is how he may now be forever immortalized through comedian Nick Rutherford's retelling of the story on Drunk History.
So Sam Patch gets a bear. That's what you did back then. If you got to a certain level of success, you got a bear.
Well, what should we call the bear?
There's no record of a name that Sam gave his bear.
The murder of Kitty Genovese. On Friday the 13th of March 1964, 28-year-old Kitty Genovese was murdered outside her home in New York City.
Kitty Genovese, a 28-year-old bar manager, is walking home in the night. She's in front of her two-story Tudor building, across from the stately Mowbray apartment house, when she sees the man with the knife.
For 30 minutes, Walter Mosley raped and stabbed her, all within earshot of those in her Queens neighborhood. A story published 2 weeks later in the New York Times alleged that 36 people who heard her cries for help did nothing. And Kitty's murder has long been promoted as a prime example of the bystander effect, the psychological phenomenon where individuals fail to act because they assume someone else has already done so. Though later analysis found that many of the witnesses to Genovese's murder did call the police, it is still frequently regarded as a modern example of American apathy to one's neighbors. So if the police were called on that Friday the 13th, why did no one respond? In another unfortunate reminder of those times, it appears the police thought the calls were about domestic disputes and determined that they weren't needed. The day of plane crashes. Again, even though there's no evidence that Friday the 13th is a particularly dangerous day to fly, that didn't matter on Friday the 13th of October, 1972, when two separate planes crashed 9,000 miles apart. The first crash was Aeroflot Flight 217, traveling from Paris to Moscow. Shortly before landing, the Moscow tower lost contact with the aircraft and the plane crashed, killing all 174 people on board. An investigation was unable to determine what precipitated the crash, and the official cause is psychophysiological incapacitation of the crew for reasons unknown. At the time, it was the deadliest plane crash in history. And that's not even the most famous plane crash that day. Because also on October 13th, 1972, Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571, a chartered plane carrying a rugby union team and their families, crashed in the remote Andes Mountains on the border between Chile and Argentina. That flight is so famous because the survivors, not knowing when or if they would be rescued, resorted to eating the bodies of dead passengers preserved in the snow in order to survive. The story is also the basis for the Frank Marshall film, Alive. Eventually, the survivors are rescued over 2 months after the crash. And finally, Lightning Strike Boy. In one of the weirdest coincidences in Friday the 13th history, a 13-year-old boy in Lowestoft, England, was struck by lightning on Friday the 13th of August, 2010. What made it even weirder is the ambulance team treated him at exactly 13:13 military time. So I guess that means the lightning bolt hit him at 1:06 or something. Interestingly enough, that boy was at a busy event where there was heavy rain. And 3 people were struck by lightning there in the span of 20 minutes. Plus, all 3 of them were holding umbrellas. So I guess it's true what they say, beware of the umbrella. His luck wasn't that bad though. The boy was taken to a hospital and made a full recovery. So what's the unluckiest thing that's ever happened to you on Friday the 13th? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe for more of What's Trending, if you dare.